The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondell.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Stage Door Show tonight. This is Dave Hondell. I'm so excited to have my guest on. I've been following her on TikTok for a long time, and she's also an actress, and she has two films that are in post-production right now. One called Bikini Shark and one called Nazi Zombies. She's also been seen on the TV series called The Cruise. So let's bring her in right now. So welcome to the show, Amber Olivia. Welcome to the show, Amber.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Well, we are too. Like I said, I've been kind of following you on TikTok for quite a while. And, you've worked on a cruise ship for several years. And I know I like to go on cruises, and so I know it's a lot of fun for people to do that. But I think a lot of people don't realize what goes on behind the scenes. And I know you've done that for several years, and you also on your TikTok, you kind of bring people in to behind the scenes to what it's like to be on a ship. And so talk about what started that. How did you get interested in kind of bringing people into behind the scenes stuff?
So I've always been a person that's watched YouTube growing up. I would always watch people do vlogs and show their life. And I've always thought I would love to do that and do something like that. But I'm one of them people where I'd be like, okay, I'm going to do it. I bought a camera, didn't do it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it now. I didn't do it. And I was like, my life isn't really that interesting. And then when I started working on ships, I was like, oh my goodness, this is the perfect opportunity to vlog my life and show everything. And it got to the point where it was my final contract and I actually did it. So I did 5 contracts, and every contract I'd be like, this is the one. This is the contract I'm going to do. This is it. Nope, still don't do it. And then on my final one that I just did, I was like, do you know what? I got to that point where I was like, who cares? Like, because I got so bothered about like, oh, people are going to be watching me. What are people at home going to think? And I just thought in my head, you know what? It really doesn't matter. Like, I've always wanted to do it. I wanted to do it for me. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to do it. And then I just started vlogging my life every day. And I was really scared at first. Like, getting your phone out in public and talking to a camera is so daunting at first, but you know what? You get so used to it. And yeah, that's kind of what started it. I've always wanted to do it. And then one day I just bit the bullet.
Well, you do such a great job. You're very charming. And I know that as a viewer, I actually like seeing, where you take us, to all these different places that you travel to. And so we kind of live through you and your travels. And, on the ship too, I've been on so many cruises, and, I've always wondered what happens behind the scenes. I've seen documentaries on it and so forth, but what people don't realize, I don't think, is that when you're on a cruise ship, I mean, people think it's glamorous. People think, you have these big cabins and you have the best cabins, and it's really not the case. I mean, I've known people that work on cruise ships, and they're very small. They're very small cabin. I mean, so you're on the ship, which is great, but first of all, you're away from your family for a long time. And you're also in the quarters that aren't like, glamorous, so to speak. You're basically there to sleep, and you're working a lot. So, do you find that doing that is kind of therapeutic in a way to kind of tell people what it's really like? And then do you get a lot of reaction back and forth when you put this stuff on TikTok?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people do think that we live this glamorous lifestyle. And don't get me wrong, some people on ships do. It truly just depends on your job. And I was very fortunate, and I know that I'm very lucky for the position I had on board. I got my own cabin. I didn't have to wear a name badge, all of this. But I also knew that there was the majority of crew members, it's not like that. So I always tried to stress that in all of my videos. Like, yes, I'm showing you my cabin here, but this is like a 5% of people have this cabin. And I really tried to show like all the different rankings as well.
Yep.
And I spoke about like the hierarchy and like how there's crew members and there's staff members, and explain really how it works on a ship. So some people do live a glamorous life, but the majority of those, it's hard work, dedication away from your families. It's tough. And I tried to show like the contrast. And I didn't want to go on and be like, I live this glamorous life and this is what it's like, because it's not what it's like.
I know you were in the entertainment piece of it on the ship. So when did all that begin for you? When did you really get that love of performing? Because I know going to school, of course, in England, did that start when you were very young? I mean, is that something you've always been interested in doing?
Always. So ever since I was a child, I'd be the one making up dances to show my family. And my mum was a singer, so she was a performer as well. So I very much get this side of me from her. And I always did like the after school clubs and on a weekend and go to dance classes. And it just stemmed from there. And I'm very lucky that from a very young age, I've always known what I've wanted to do. And I've had parents that have supported me with it as well. So just from I went through normal public school, like public primary, secondary school, which I think you call high school. And then it wasn't until I was 16 that I went to a like private drama school. But I think it was because my parents had seen that it's not just a last minute decision I'd made. It's something that I'd wanted to do my entire life.
You have 2 movies right now in post-production and talk about those films that you were in, because, that's something that I think people that get into acting, there's different types of acting. There's TV, there's theater, obviously, and film, and talk about your experiences on those 2 films, because I think they're in post-production. They're going to come out, I guess, at some point soon. But talk about your experience doing film, because I think a lot of people that are acting, kind of want to hear what it's like to be on films or in films.
Yeah. So the films that I did were low budget horror films. I got these jobs without an agent. It was just mainly doing these jobs to try and get showreel footage to get an agent. So they weren't like the big fancy productions, but just being on set, being in front of a camera. We did full feature films, both of them in a week, in 7 days, which is absolutely crazy. We was working long hours. But the hours don't matter when it's something that you love. So just being on set, being in front of the camera, meeting the cast, I think that was the best part, being with like-minded people as well. It's so motivating, even though you know that they are just low budget and then they're not going to be in the huge cinema screens and stuff. But just being able to do what you love, it doesn't matter where you start, what you do, just being in front of a camera and like doing what you love is the best thing.
That's perfect. I like how you said that, because I think a lot of young actors, like our listeners, haven't been in a film yet. I mean, I started doing short films when I was young, but you have to start somewhere. And like you said, just getting the experience of being in front of the camera and seeing how things work, eventually that might lead to producing and directing roles as well. So did you get a feel for, like kind of seeing down the road a little bit? Is that something that you wouldn't mind doing as well, besides acting, is producing and directing?
1,000%. Like I would sit behind the scenes that I'm not in, and I'd be watching it and I'd be like, oh, they could try it this way, they could do it that way. Obviously I didn't say anything because that's not my job, that's not while I'm there. But when you're out of it and you're seeing the actors doing their thing, you can really be like, oh, but then they could try this, the camera could do this. So I thought, maybe I could in the future. Of course, acting's what I want to do now, but like in the future, it's definitely something that I would be interested in.
What about The Cruise? That's a TV show. I don't believe it shows here in the United States, but it's a very popular show. And talk about them following you around. I know you've been on a couple episodes of that. So talk about that experience, because I think that's another form of of performing arts, is doing maybe unscripted type of things or kind of reality type shows. So talk about that a little bit, and how that experience was for you as well.
Of course. So with that, I was only on 2 separate episodes, but it really was like, it wasn't scripted at all. They kind of just said, for the first episode, I'm doing a line dancing class. Now, that wasn't even my job on the ship, to do line dancing. Yeah. But my boss, he knew that I loved like being on camera and it's what I wanted to do. So he said, Amber, you're going to go do a line dance class. So that was daunting at first, like trying to think of dancers. But anyway, they quite literally, they put a microphone on you for this program anyway. I know that other programs are different. And they just say, you, do what you would usually do, speak how you would usually speak, say what you would usually say. And that's exactly what I did. I know. There's already somewhat of a filter on me anyway, because of course, working on a cruise, live productions and everything. But somehow, like, especially when it's your first time, as soon as they put that camera in front of your face and the camera literally will be there, like you forget how to speak and what words to say and all of that. But no, honestly, it was so much fun. And then the second episode, I was in one of my characters, and my characters on the ship have scripts for most of the time. So they just recorded me doing my script there. But yeah, it was very much like, here's your microphone, do what you usually do as a job. We're going to film it and then it's going to go on TV.
Yeah. Do you ever find being on a cruise ship too that I mean, you're there for 5 contracts, which I believe were 12 months. They're like 5 years, right? Essentially. Or
yeah. So they're a bit shorter. So you do about 6 months on, 2 months off. But one time I was on for 11 months without going home.
Yeah.
Which was crazy.
Yeah, that is. I mean, you're away from your family, but I mean, I would imagine that you have some relationships that you're able to forge on those ships for lifetimes. I mean, lifetime relationships with some of your friends, and so you meet people from around the world. So it has to be really an amazing experience to go through something like that and to have these lifetime friendships.
Absolutely. Like I've met my bestest friend in the whole wide world. Like I call her my soulmate. I met her through ships, and there's so many friends now that I meet up with all the time that are from cruises. 2 girls that I met who live in Australia, they let me come fly over and stay with them. And you always meet people from so many different cultures. And I can't tell you how much I've learned. And like, you just got to be such an open person to like receive it all and to see how different people work. And because we're all different, and even everyone in England, we're all different. But if you put me next to the majority of like crew members are from the Philippines, like, we're so different, but you've just got to be open to it and like allow yourself into their culture. So in Crew Bar, we'll have different nights. We'll have a Latin party night. We'll have like Filipino Independence Day, Indian Independence Day, and it's all their music and we're all dancing. And it's just so lovely. And you'll never find it anywhere else than on a cruise ship where we can all just celebrate each other and where we each like come from. It's beautiful.
Well, if everybody could work on a cruise ship for one contract, even, I think what a world this would be, right? If we could all have everybody that has all these biases and things like that, spend a contract on a cruise ship and you'll come out a different person.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I was never a closed-minded person anyway before. I've always loved people. Doesn't matter where you come from or who you are. But even then, like from before till now, like it's so different. And it's amazing. And I have friends from all over the world. And it's amazing. I love it.
So what are your aspirations? I mean, I know you've been in a couple short films and, and you do the influencing thing on TikTok. But what is your goal? What do you want to do like 3 years down the road? And where do you want to be? I mean, as a performer? I
want to do TV and film. That's always been my goal. It's always been my end goal. I want to be a TV and film actress. I wouldn't mind starting like properly off in maybe like a soap. We have soaps. I don't know if you guys know what soaps are in America. It's long running.
We have them here as well. Yeah, it's I know that you have some pretty popular ones out and actually there's a lot of people that don't realize this, but there's massive studios in England. In fact, a lot of Star Wars films were produced there. I mean, some of the biggest films you've ever heard of were done in England. So you have the industry there already. And it doesn't mean that somebody's got to necessarily live in Hollywood or LA. I mean, there's places around the world, even now India and Jordan. There's a lot of places in the Middle East now that are building these massive studios. So I think entertainment is everywhere, and you can put your footprint anywhere in the world and do very well. So is it your plan to stay in the England region, or are you eventually going to move, or what is do you have any immediate plans for that?
At the moment, staying in England just because it's all fairly new and visas and everything. But the end goal has always been LA.
Yeah.
I've been there, and you know when you just feel a connection and a pull to a city?
Yeah.
That's how I feel with LA. So one day I will live there.
Yeah, well, I think again, just first of all, I mean, I've been around entertainment for 30 years, and mostly music, but you can tell good talent when it's there, and I personally think you're going to be a star. Personally think that you're going to have an amazing career. Just your personality alone, people will want to work with you, and just for again my listeners out there, there's certain ways to handle yourself, on social media. There's certain ways to handle yourself on interviews, and you're really a role model for a lot of people. And I know you're just getting started in this, but you have a great career ahead of you. And first of all, I can't wait to see what's down the road in the future. But for all of our new listeners here, and I know that you're fairly new at this as well, but from what you've experienced already, what kind of advice can you give somebody that's literally just starting out, as somebody that's in that performing arts high school like you went to?
Okay, so the one thing, and it's very similar to what you've just said, and also thank you so much for your kind words. That honestly means the world to me. But the one thing that my principal, Maxine Glasby, she taught all of us is always remain a nice person. People want to meet with nice people. The industry is small. It seems like it's big, but it's small, and everybody knows everyone. So just remain nice, and then people will start talking and your name will get around. And then just go for it. It doesn't matter how many no's you get, because imagine if you give up right before your yes. That's what I tell myself every day. And we all go through no's. Like, I'm always watching interviews of different celebrities. I'm personally obsessed with Margot Robbie. I watch all of hers.
She's great.
And she would pick up I love her. She would pick up the phone every single day to try, and she'd be told, no, no, no. Just to get on Neighbours, she'd be keep trying and trying. You've just got to keep at it. It doesn't matter what anyone says. If you want something, go for it. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm still trying. I've not at all made it at all yet, but one day I know I will, and that's why I won't stop.
Well, I think, the fact that we're in a social media world right now. And when I was coming up in the business, there was no social media. There was no cell phones. There was nothing. We literally had 3 channels on network TV growing up. And so we didn't have a lot. You almost had to have an agent. You had to have, I don't know, some kind of contract, from a studio in order to be seen, because there was distribution deals and things like that. But people could be their own distributors right now. I mean, that's what you've shown, that we can do that. To go on TikTok and to show people your life and to show people what you do. And I mean, there's a lot of interest in that. People, obviously, social media can be bad too. I mean, it's not always great, but, sometimes you have to put up with the people that, I guess haters, things like that. But at the same time, there's going to be so many people that are interested in what you're doing that, you could keep growing your audience base, by doing what you're doing on social media. And again, it's interesting stuff, people that, not everybody loves to go on cruises, but it's not about the cruising. It's about the charm. It's about the passion you have for what you do that I think draws people in. So, continuing to do that, I think would be a great, thing for you to keep doing that, and also keep auditioning. Because again, like you said, first of all, these short films, I used to do short films too. And the nice thing about that is that they're low budget, but the fact that people are involved with that it means that they're passionate about the project. The love of what they do is what, that's why I always like being on low budget sets, because the people aren't there for the money. People are there for the love of the art. Right. So, when these things come out, there's going to be, again, you're able to put a reel together. And again, for my listeners out there, and this, take this as a learning moment, to take those jobs, to go on Backstage, or to go on these, these sites where you can audition for things that are maybe low budget or no budget. and, put your reel together. And, even if you don't have a film to be in, create your own reel, do something, act out a scene, do a monologue, do whatever you can to get your name out there and to get your, your face and, your talent out there. Before we leave, I just want to ask you this in question. I'll ask everybody this question. But when it's all said and done, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to leave behind when people think of your name?
Oh, that is such a good question. My energy. That's one thing I'm very proud of. Being smiley. I just want everyone to be like, no matter what, she was always smiling. She was always happy. I think that. I don't know. I should have thought about that.
Well, no, that's a great answer, actually. I mean, that's one thing I think we just need more kindness in the world, and we need more people that have that attitude. And you're always so cheerful and all year. And I know it's genuine. You can tell that it's genuine and sincere. So, just best of luck. How can people find you? First of all, I know we talked about your TikTok, but how can people find you on social media?
So my TikTok and Instagram, they're both the same. It's @ and then it's AMB and then Olivia with 2 A's. And then, those two, they're ones that I post on the most, and I try and stay so active. And I'm always checking my DMs as well. I like to answer people's questions a lot. So if you do have any, I'm very active on my phone. I'm obsessed with my phone. So just send me a message.
Check her out, guys. Amber Olivia, check her out. On social media, and just again, you're going to be a household name someday, and I truly believe that. I'm not just saying that. I really believe that. So, but thank you for being on the show, Amber, and my best to you in your future. Always welcome back on this show anytime. So, anyway, thank you again for being on the show, and best of luck to you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I've had a blast.